The rain hammered against the windshield as Richard Maxwell's Mercedes turned into the wrong street, his GPS having failed him in this unfamiliar part of town. He was supposed to be heading to his downtown office, but construction had forced a detour through neighborhoods he'd never known existed, despite living in this city for 40 years. As he slowed at a corner, waiting for the light to change, his eyes caught something that made his blood run cold. There, huddled against a dumpster behind a chain-link fence, was a woman in a threadbare coat, clutching a small child to her chest. Even through the rain and distance, even though 3 years had passed, he recognized her immediately. It was Maria, his Maria, the woman who had worked in his home for 7 years, who had become like family, who had vanished without a trace one devastating night, and she was living in a garbage dump. Richard's hands trembled as he jerked the steering wheel, pulling into an abandoned lot. He didn't care about the honking horns behind him or the puddles his expensive shoes landed in as he ran toward the fence. His heart was pounding so hard he thought it might burst through his chest. Maria had been more than an employee. She had been there when his wife died, holding his hand through those dark months. She had been there for his daughter's graduation, beaming with pride, as if Emma were her own child. She had been the steady, gentle presence that held his fractured household together. And then one day, she was gone. No note, no explanation, just empty rooms and unanswered questions that had haunted him ever since. He climbed over the fence, not caring that his suit jacket tore on the wire, and ran through the muddy pathways between piles of refuse. As he got closer, he could see her more clearly. She was thinner, so much thinner, her face gaunt and aged beyond her years. The child in her arms couldn't have been more than 2 years old, with dark curls plastered to his forehead, and enormous brown eyes that stared out from a face too solemn for someone so young. "Maria!" he called out, his voice breaking. She looked up, and the expression that crossed her face was one he would never forget. Terror. Absolute, bone-deep terror. She scrambled to her feet, clutching the child tighter, and tried to back away. But there was nowhere to go. She was trapped between a wall of garbage bags and a rusted shipping container. "Maria, please," Richard said, raising his hands and stopping several feet away. "It's me. It's Richard. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to help." Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the rain. "Senor Maxwell," she whispered, and her voice was hoarse, as if she hadn't spoken properly in a long time. "Please, you must go. You cannot be here. It is not safe." "Not safe? Maria, you're living in a dump. You have a child. How is any of this safe?" He took a step closer, and she flinched. The gesture cut him deeper than any blade could have. "Whatever happened, whatever made you leave, we can fix it. Please, just come with me. Let me help you." The little boy started to cry, a thin, weak sound that spoke of hunger and cold. Maria rocked him mechanically, but her eyes never left Richard's face. He could see the war raging inside her, fear battling against desperation, pride fighting with need. "You do not understand," she said finally. "I cannot come back. I can never come back. Then help me understand. Maria, you were family. When you disappeared, it destroyed us. Emma cried for weeks. I looked everywhere for you. I filed missing person reports, hired investigators, called every hospital in 3 states. What happened? Where did you go?" She was silent for a long moment, her jaw working as if she were trying to form words that wouldn't come. Finally, she sagged against the shipping container, the fight draining out of her. "I was pregnant," she whispered. Richard felt the world tilt beneath his feet. "Pregnant? But why would you?" "Run. Did you think I would fire you?" "Maria, I would never—" "It was not just that," she interrupted, and her voice was thick with shame. "It was whose baby it was." The rain seemed to grow louder in the silence that followed. Richard's mind raced, trying to understand. "Whose baby, Maria?" She looked down at the child in her arms, and when she looked back up, her eyes were filled with such profound sadness that Richard felt his chest constrict. "Your brother's," she said softly. The words hit him like a physical blow. Thomas. His brother Thomas, who had died in a car accident 3.5 years ago. Thomas, who had been married to Catherine. Thomas, who had always been the charming one, the one who could talk his way into or out of anything. "Thomas," Richard breathed. and suddenly so many things made sense. The way Maria had seemed distracted in those last few months before she disappeared. The way she'd sometimes looked pale and sick in the mornings. The way she'd avoided family gatherings where Thomas and Catherine would be present. "He said he loved me," Maria continued, and her voice was barely audible now. "He said he was going to leave his wife. He said we would be together. I was so stupid, Senor Maxwell, so stupid. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. Because for once in my life, someone like him saw me as more than just a maid, more than just the help." Richard felt sick. He wanted to defend his brother, to say that Thomas wouldn't have done something like that, but he knew it would be a lie. Thomas had always been a philanderer. There had been rumors throughout his marriage, whispered conversations that Richard had ignored because Thomas was his brother and you stood by family. But this was different. "When I found out I was pregnant," Maria went on, "I was so happy at first. I thought finally this will make it real. He will have to tell his wife. He will have to choose. But when I told him," she closed her eyes, and a fresh wave of tears spilled down her cheeks. He laughed. "He said I must have been with someone else because he had been careful. He said if I tried to claim the baby was his, he would destroy me. He would have me deported. He would make sure I never worked again. He said no one would believe a maid over a Maxwell." "Maria, I am so sorry," Richard said, and he meant it with every fiber of his being. "I'm so sorry. If I had known—" "How could you know?" she asked. "He was your brother, and he was right. Who would have believed me? So I ran. I had some money saved, and I thought I could make it work. I went to another city, found a room, got a job in a restaurant. But then the baby came early. There were complications, the medical bills." She laughed bitterly. "They took everything, and without papers, without references I could use, I could not find good work. I tried, Senor Maxwell. I tried so hard. But it was never enough." "How long have you been here?" Richard asked, looking around at the squalor surrounding them. 4 months, she said. "At first we stayed in a shelter, but there was a man there who—" She trailed off, and Richard didn't need her to finish. This was safer. "Here, people leave us alone mostly. We have a spot in the container where it is dry. I find food, clothes. I keep Diego clean and fed as best I can." Diego. His nephew had a name. Richard looked at the little boy, really looked at him, and felt his heart shatter into a million pieces. The child had Thomas's eyes, the distinctive Maxwell gray-blue that ran in the family. He had the same curl to his hair, the same shape to his face. There was no denying the parentage. "You need to come with me," Richard said firmly. "Both of you. Right now." "I cannot," Maria protested. "Your family, they will—" "My family will accept this because I say so," Richard interrupted. "Maria, this child is my nephew. He's a Maxwell, whether anyone likes it or not. And you suffered because of my brother's cruelty and cowardice. I can't change what happened, but I can help you now. Please, let me help you." The little boy, Diego, had stopped crying and was watching Richard with those solemn eyes. He reached out one small hand, and Richard found himself moving closer, letting the child's tiny fingers wrap around his thumb. The gesture was so innocent, so trusting, that Richard felt tears prick his own eyes. "Come home," he said softly, looking up at Maria. "Please, come home." The drive back to Richard's house was silent, except for the sound of the rain and Diego's occasional whimpers. Maria sat in the back seat, holding her son close, looking like a trapped animal. Richard kept glancing at them in the rearview mirror, trying to process everything he'd learned. His brother had been a monster, not in the dramatic, obvious way, but in the quiet, insidious way that powerful men often were. He had taken advantage of someone vulnerable, someone dependent on the Maxwell family for her livelihood, and then cast her aside when she became inconvenient. And then he had died, leaving Maria to face the consequences alone. When they pulled into the circular driveway of the Maxwell estate, Maria made a small sound of distress. "I cannot go in there," she said. "Please, Senor Maxwell. Anywhere else." "This is your home," Richard said firmly, parking the car and turning to face her. "It was always your home. That never changed." Before Maria could respond, the front door burst open and Emma came running out, heedless of the rain. Richard's daughter was 24 now, working as a graphic designer. But in that moment, she looked like the teenager who had cried herself to sleep for weeks after Maria disappeared. "Dad, what's—" Emma stopped short when she saw who was in the back seat. "Maria, oh my God, Maria!" Emma yanked open the back door and threw her arms around Maria, sobbing. "Where have you been? Why did you leave? We missed you so much. We thought something terrible had happened to you."